to it. So we'll call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Dr. Cordelino?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Dr. King?
Here.
Dr. Modrick?
Here.
Mr. Morello?
Here.
Mrs. Noki? Mr. O'Brien?
Here.
Mr. Palma?
Here.
Anita Lee? And Jay Rock?
Here.
Form present, right?
Yes.
Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Where's the flag?
Thank you, Barbara. Please read the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law statement.
The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Laws were enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice and to attend the meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Montville Township Board of Education approved this meeting date. Notice of the meeting has been posted at the Montville Municipal Building, all Montville Public Schools, the Montville Public Library, the Montville Township Board of Education Administrative Office Building, the Montville Public School website, and advertised in the Daily Record.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. High school student representative report. How are you, Jay?
Doing well, how are you?
Thank you for being here.
Yes, good evening, everyone. When first looking to sports, the boys basketball team has had a spectacular year and just dropped, unfortunately, right before the semifinal round of the county tournament. However, this finish was the best in many years, and the team is looking forward to the rest of the season. The girls basketball team, the contrary, did not have the best of starts, but is now one of the hottest teams in New Jersey. They are currently 10-9 and just one win away from the conference championships. They are playing tonight, which is why my partner is not here. On the individual level for our basketball teams, junior Kelly Ann O'Reilly has scored her 1,000th point, and senior Jacob Kaplan will be scoring his any day now. Incredible accomplishments on the part of those players. Moving on to wrestling, Anthony Fano received his 100th career win last week, putting him in an elite group of only 6 other Montville wrestlers in history. The hockey team was also able to win its division, the Halverson division, and will be playing in the semi-final round tonight at 8 o'clock at the Bennett Arena in Morristown, which is where I'll be going soon after this. Moving on to clubs, the forensics team attended the annual Harvard debate tournament this past weekend and had a spectacular finish. Top finishers included Claire Sullivan and James Burnett's duo, which advanced to the semi-final round. Pranav Kumar, who placed 7th in Congress, and Ravi Upadhyay, who placed 2nd in JV Lincoln Douglas debate out of upwards of 400 competitors. The team had many more breaks, but unfortunately was robbed by a few others by Mother Nature. Due to the weather in Boston, many debaters were unable to advance in the tournament, as many of the rounds were canceled. Regardless, the team looks forward to hosting its own invitational tournament on the 28th of February at the high school. Upwards of 1,000 people will be in attendance. The Drama Club continues their efforts and is just weeks away from debuting this year's musical, Legally Blonde. From having received an inside look at the scenery and knowing many of the tremendous actors and actresses participating, it is bound to be a huge success. And moving on to the rest of the school, with marking period 3 now in full swing, the high school is ready to turn on the jets and move forward to the beginning of the end of the school year. From spring sport trials to senior yearbook deadlines, the entire high school is beginning to face crunch time. Especially with AP tests and other important things quickly approaching, the next few weeks will be pivotal in ensuring our success.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank
Goosebumps from your report. It sounds like everything's going so well at high school.
Thanks, going great.
Thank you. Yes.
Jay, maybe you forgot, isn't the volleyball marathon,
Yes, the volleyball marathon's this Friday at 7 o'clock, I believe, or 6 o'clock.
and people can make donations?
People can make donations. We have upwards of 90 teams participating this year. They were able to fill up the slots for those participating teams in a matter of 2 days.
Do you know what its benefits going for this year?
Well, the Key Club basically pools all the money. Part of it can be donated, and part of it goes into their budget and running under other fundraising events. But basically, the theme this year is Disney, and all the teams are urged to be different Disney characters, and they're then going to see how much money they pool and go from there and see what causes they're going to support.
It's a great evening, if any of you can make it. It starts at 6 at the high school this Friday. It should be a little warmer by then.
We tried to sign up, but we were too late. So,
Blame it on
Mike,
Jack.
no, Mike, our youngest member, promised to start a training program for us, to get us in shape for next year.
Spectacular.
Go
I can
for
tell
it.
you that my team was too late too, and I wrote in the form the day after.
Oh,
So you have to really get on it.
Well, thank you, Jack.
No problem. I'm good.
Okay, superintendent's report.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Good evening to our Hilldale students and families. We're so glad you're here. It's good to see you. So the first thing I'd like to do is just make a few remarks on the upcoming park assessments that are beginning just within a couple of weeks, actually, beginning of March. Recently, I sent a letter to all parents in our school district explaining some of the protocols connected to the park assessment, with some links to information about park testing that you can look at, and certainly also an invitation if you have questions to call either your child's principal or certainly someone in our office, Andrea Woodring, Casey Shorter, or myself will be happy to answer any questions you might have. So next we have a variety of presentations this evening. We're excited about that. And our first one is the Veterans of Foreign War Essay Contest. And is Mr. Joe Cole with us this evening? There you are. Thank you for being here. Why don't you come up to the microphone if you would. We're going to have Dr. Cordolino, our Board of Education President, joining you. We have some certificates. And welcome again, and thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, and thank you, members of the board. Is that all right if I say a few words?
Absolutely, please.
Joe, just bring the mic down a little, Joe.
Sure thing. Hi, my name is Joe Call. I'm a member of the VFW Post 5481. We have a new commander with us tonight, Commander Charles Ferry, who's in the back, right there. Commander Ferry is an Air Force veteran and follows in the footsteps of our Commander Emeritus Frank Wahala, who is not here tonight, but who we love dearly. The reason I'm here is because we're the sponsors of the Patriots Pen Contest, which every year students at the Azar Middle School participate in. The contest is conducted nationally. It's a nationally sponsored VFW youth essay competition, and it gives students an opportunity to write essays expressing their views on democracy. We invite them to join the more than 125,000 students nationwide who participate in each year's contest for numerous monetary awards. For many years, the Montville VFW Post has had the students join in this contest competition. They are allowed to participate in honing their writing skills, their cognitive abilities, and knowledge and understanding of patriotism. This year's theme was Why I Appreciate American Veterans. Entrants were graded on their originality, the clearness of the content, the positive focus of their theme. Each entry had to be 300 to 400 typewritten words, an original work, and a product of their own thinking. This year we had a number of students who entered, and we have two finalists, Mike Mineta with a second place entry, and Priya Trivedi, our first place finalist. Congratulations to both students for your excellent work. And thanks also to Assistant Principal John Pizzelli for his hard work coordinating this event and getting the job done. I hope that in the future we see Mike and Priya entering our high school level Voice of Democracy contest And thank you all members of the Montville Board of Education. And now would Mike Mineta please come down for your certificate and award check.
Mr. Pissarro, would you like to join them? Dr. Cordovino?
And now would Priya Trivedi please come down for your first place certificate and award check. And thank you very much, Board, for your time.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the opportunity for our students. The Montville Township Schools appreciate the VFW being involved with our students and sponsoring this contest for them. Thank you. Our next presentation this evening is from our students at Hilldale School. And I'm going to introduce the principal, Ms. Jill Cicernos, who's going to be introducing the program this evening. Jill?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. It is my pleasure to introduce the Greek gods and goddesses of Hilldale School. Our fourth grade students have been studying mythology, and each child has selected a god or goddess to represent in Hilldale's annual Living Museum. These students researched and wrote their own first-person speeches. They also designed their own costumes. This project is a fantastic way to make Mount Olympus come alive and give students a true hands-on learning experience that directly ties to the Common Core and the Montville curriculum. It is also a very creative way to have students practice their presentation skills. So, first I would like to also thank the teachers who are here tonight, Mrs. Weber, Mrs. Hogan, Mrs. Craig, Mrs. Gatos, and Mrs. Jones. They did a lot. So we are going to ask that everyone gets up from their seats, and there are so many of us here, so maybe we're going to step on the button on the floor and the students will begin their presentation. So we're going to ask if everybody maybe could go to one or two students, otherwise we would be here for a while. One or two students just step on their button and they will come alive. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm here to say Uganda. My parents are from Mississippi. My home is the unknown, and my brother is in inside. If people die, I decide. Before I tell you, I was swollen. I turned my body Zeus was the only one who did this. As I came out of the system, I I wish everything I could do was confusing. Then that would make me the richest and most powerful man in the world. Because I was out today. I was everything. I turned my daughter into a capitalist. Painted their face. I know. I was Greek god. This was the only one thing that after it came out of her stomach, I know those about to fall. My sister was a hero. I lived them in the nice place. It was something bad. They're just scary. First, even under I made I got 3 heads and became 7. He's my favorite. Who's asked me if I said one? Said this one. I said, okay, so here's my dog. Oh, yeah. That was finally I'm Phoenix. My parents are I wish everything would touch your ex. After I made money, because I wanted to family faces, I'm a hero. I don't understand that keep I've got 3 heads in
Apollo, put your crown on. Go ahead.
I can see that, right?
All right, I'll start.
Step on Midas.
I'm Phoenix, god of the earth. My parents are very greedy and we want to see the world and especially with us inside.
Yes, Maddie. Yes, yes. Hi, good to see you.
I was strongly after I came out of the system, I fought Stop. No, keep going. Keep going. Let's go to kids. That was just part of
I have to make you smile, man.
God of the unknown. My parents are close and real. My brothers and sisters inside. People die, I decide where they go. I'm swallowed like all the other Greek gods by parents. This was really not making swallowed. After I came out of class, I got the God of the
So what is the Hindu god of Hades? What is the Hindu god of Hades? Hades, do you know? Yum. Good job.
We're going to take about 2 more minutes and then end our meeting in about 2 more minutes.
Perfect. let's do Hades.
We'd like to ask our Board of Education to return to the board table, and for our audience members to please have a seat. So good evening once again. I would like to take a moment and thank all of our wonderful students from Hilldale School for providing us with a wonderful opportunity to see your living museum today. We want to thank our teachers and other staff members who are here, Mrs. Sernos who was here, and all of our parents and family members who came out tonight as well. So can we have a big round of applause for our living museum? I know that I just heard from one of your teachers that in a moment they'd like the children to gather outside. I don't know if Sue Marinello wants to take your picture out there perhaps. She's probably going to take it as individual pictures, but perhaps the best place to do that if you want a group picture would be in the lobby. Our next presentation is the renovation that we're hoping to move forward on our high school media center. If that's of any interest to our families, of course, we invite you to stay. But if not, we'll take a momentary break, Dr. Cordelino, to allow our children and their families to move into the lobby area. So thank you again. You were wonderful tonight. We really appreciate you being here.
Oh, sorry.
Do you have your stuff, Matt?
Daddy, why did you walk and you stepped on my
Oh, I was just making you do it again, buddy.
Why would I come back? Because he'd already listened to it once.
I heard it 3 times.
Yeah, she's out here. Lose it, buddy.
I just say that.
However you like. You would like us to go into the audience? Yeah, please go into the audience. Yes, we'll go.
Okay, board members, can you please have a seat in the audience so that the
Board, we're going to sit
the
in the audience.
information that is being presented can face the community as well as you during this time. And as setup is taking place, I'd like to introduce the SSP Architectural Group. And we have with us tonight Scott Mahalik, Marcus Rosnow, and Tammy Schutsko, sorry, who have been working with a large, very representative committee comprised of students from our high school, teachers, parents and community members, members of our Board of Education, and members of our administration, as we look to provide renovation to the Montville Township High School Media Center. And we've had numerous meetings, and it's now at a point where we have something to look at and for the board to act upon. So welcome, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Scott Mahalik with SSP Architectural Group. And what we'll do is really just give you a relatively brief overview of where we are in the process. We have been meeting now since October and November with the various groups, both with members of the board, administration, as well as teachers, parents, students. And it's really helped inform the design that we've developed at this point, so that it's really not just coming from one avenue or from one small group. We really have worked hard to get a good cross-section. Throughout, everyone is really a stakeholder here. We have members from the Township Library on board, some of our members who really try to be overly comprehensive. The Media Center has not been comprehensively renovated, I don't believe, since the school was built. So this is a big renovation. This is something that you're looking to invest in to hold for 20 to 30 years. I mean, this is not a renovation that you're looking to really do and then have to redo again. And with that in mind, we're really trying to take the space from a 1960s, 1970s functionality when there were no computers and no handhelds and iPhones and things like that, and really take it out so that it can provide what the needs are for the students for the foreseeable future, as much as anyone can predict what's going to happen with technology. The plan at this point is really to get Board of Education approval to submit the project down to the State Department of Education for their reviews and approvals, and draw up plans and go out to bid so that we can really use the summer and the fall for the construction and the renovation work. We know that the scope of what we're looking to do is not a 2-month renovation, so there will be some closure to the Media Center. Initially, we were thinking that would happen in the spring. All the input that we're receiving is that really we'll leave the library open until May, June timeframe, and then look to renovate in the summer and then go into the fall so that we can have an opening in the October timeframe or so, once the new school year hits in. I'm going to have Marcus run through the overall plan and pertain to support with some of the other items that we looked at.
Thank you. As Scott mentioned, we did meet with several groups. We had a main kind of advisory group, which was made up of students, teachers, parents, township library board members, teachers, a media specialist, a wide group of people. Which that first meeting, I think we ended up with 30 people, and we just used that first meeting and even the next meeting to kind of just garner some brainstorming ideas and what they thought that their vision of this space would be. Kind of had them we asked them the question, this would be a great place if, and fill in the blank. And we came up with such things as, something that's a little bit more socially vibrant, something that's a little bit lively, more access to computers and printers, more room to do things in small groups and collaborate with fellow students or with teachers, quiet space, those kind of things. Long list of things that we came up with. And through that process, and then a couple other meetings with a smaller group, we came up with this plan, which I'll run through real quickly. Forgive me if in the back you have trouble seeing it, I'll try to point everything out along the way, but the orientation of this is such that the main entrance to the school is down here, with the rotunda and the office area down at the bottom of the page, just off the page. So right now, you go into the media center through some doors down the ramp into the doors there. That's really the main entrance into the library. And one of the comments that came out was, let's have some more connection to the library, more connection to the other activities that are happening in the school. So now we're proposing to put an entrance down here, right off the vestibule, off the lobby, right next to the office area. Attach more right along the main thoroughfare, a little bit more access. That means that we're actually going to be raising the floor level at that one end of the media center to bring it up to the level of that lobby. So we have an area of more socialized seating. The idea is that from this end, we're doing more of this social, kind of interactive, more lively kind of study and instruction and interaction. And then as you move back, you get into some of the quieter kind of study. So up here we have, that raised platform. You step down into, off to the side there, an area where we can use it for art displays. A small little dedicated art gallery. The idea is that, just like now, using the media center for display, for art and other kind of events. So you'll have a dedicated space there, but then plenty of other areas throughout the media center where you can display sculptures and paintings and things that are happening throughout the school year by the students. Moving up from that into this area, along the perimeter walls, there will be stacks. That's where you'll have the actual hard books. I did forget to mention that we're actually going to pop in some more windows along this other area to make more connection into the media center. Anyway, stacks, and then a study area in the middle. Basically, a wide open, flexible space that would be at this stage is soft seating, lounge seating, study seating. Some tablet arms on some soft seating. But the main idea is that it's all flexible. So right now we're showing this as being soft seating and lounge, more study seating, more tables and chairs up here. It could easily be flipped around. It could easily be moved and things set aside so you can have open floor space. You can reconfigure it in an easy, quick way. So those heavy wood tables and chairs that you might be used to, going to be replaced with lighter type things. Moving up, we are keeping this entrance off to the side here, but we're going to recess it so it's not opening up right into the flow of traffic. We have a kind of a free-form media circulation desk housed there. And then moving on up, we have another access point on the side of that. We are going to move that and really try to cut off that access, that's kind of that cut through that's happening now. That was a bit of a distraction, as we've heard. A little bit of people just kind of cutting through, and it's really causing problems. So get that off the main circulation, but still have it as kind of card access, emergency use, and that kind of thing. Up in this corner, we are actually taking an office area now and expanding into that little office area. We're expanding into this office area and workspace, and then we're actually proposing to move into the courtyard a little bit with an area that's mostly glass. The idea is give ourselves a little bit more elbow room in the space and bring in a lot more daylight into the room. Kind of limited on where we can do that, so we really just wanted to get as much window into that space as we can. And then we have over here we have a media classroom that can be separated off by some glass doors, or those can be opened up into more seating. You could have a large group activity, a board meeting, in that large space. But again, it's all flexible, tables, chairs, those kind of things. And then finally, in this area, we have some glass wall collaboration rooms. Glass, basically so that we can keep supervision on things, and then isolated so that some of the noise that's happening elsewhere, people can have their quiet study space. The idea is that those spaces would have quick access and connection to technology, so you can bring in laptops and things, display it on some large monitors that are already set up, kind of having that collaboration zone. So that's pretty much it in terms of the layout. I'm going to have Tammy talk a little bit about the finishes because she's been working on some of those elements, and again, kind of bringing in that vibrancy that everybody talked about.
One of the important things to look at in the plan, though, Scott, before you put that back, is the integration of technology. Flexibility and mobility was a very big key in what we were doing here. So as Marcus talked about the ability to put the lounge in here, we're also showing TV monitors. So if you were to do a presentation, if you want to do streaming news for a current event, something that's going on, we're integrating technology in here through the classroom as well into this flexible area that this meeting room can expand to. So it's really bringing your library out of the way it was originally designed into the 21st century, giving you the ability to do whatever you want, create the space to let it perform however you need it to perform at that time. So that's bringing the flexibility and the mobility yet another step further. So I was the last person on board here. We had a lot of the feedback that they had gotten from the groups that they met with, and we went in with 3 different schemes, design schemes, to say, love it, hate it, where do you want to go with your space? So this seemed to be the favorite that we got the feedback from. The direction that we're getting put in is a lot of vibrant colors. We're talking more with the carpet on the floor. We're going to do a mix between carpet and hard, resilient floor or tile floor in certain areas. With the raised area coming in off the lobby, because that's a high traffic area that's close to the outside. We were looking at doing more of a porcelain tile just because of the durability of that material and the cleanability of it. The carpet helps keep acoustics down in the space, so we want to mix the hard flooring with the soft flooring. On the color scheme wise, green seems to be a favorite. Obviously, you are green. So bringing green to that vibrant, that life that you can pull out of it. So we're going to mix a lot of the neutrals with, you'll see a lot of the color in here is really coming from your fabrics and the stuff that it's your little spots here and there. We're not going to overpower you with color. We're not going to completely saturate the space. But it's really being able to bring some materials in and get some accents and some forms in there that we can really define the space, but give you a canvas to let your students define it. Bring your artwork in, bring your space in, let you own your space. So you'll see the little colors, and this obviously will develop as we continue to meet with your group. It will develop quickly because the summer is moving on as much quicker than people realize. So we'll continue to work quickly, work hard, work together to get the space that you really want to get and that you want to grow into. So I don't know if there's...
We'll come back up and the board can ask and then we'll start public.
Sure.
Just to provide a little bit of historical perspective, even before the architects became involved in the project, Mr. Doug Sanford had pulled together a committee of, I don't know, maybe 20 to 25 people, and we were tasked with doing research on media centers, and then we were tasked with visiting school districts and schools that had either recently renovated their media center or had put a new addition on the school, which included a media center. So that by the time it was appropriate to begin to think about architects, the group had in its mind a very good foundation about what a modern or close to 21st century media center would look like. We looked at media centers in middle schools and high schools. So I think that was a very wise thing that Mr. Sanford did by pulling together a committee very early on to do some legwork. And I think it's paid off because I think the group has been pretty focused on what it wants out of the media center, and I think that kind of all that pre-work helped. So I just wanted to provide that information for the public, really.
I think too that Scott sort of went over this, but I think we're going to have so many electrical outlets in the library, right? Between the printers, the computers, between areas for kids to charge phones, et cetera, which is also going to bring it into the 21st century a little. And lighting, things like that, which will really liven up the place. I was on a committee with Karen, and that's what impressed me, is going through there and being able to utilize the library for a lot of different functions, the way it's laid out.
So does the board have any questions? Carmel?
I have two questions. Does the plan,
Use the mic.
it doesn't seem that the plan is increasing square footage. I know that there was a discussion about pushing out somewhat into the courtyard.
It actually is, but right now, the media center ends right here on this line.
So do you know how many square feet we're increasing?
This is about 400 square feet here, existing office space. This is about 400 square feet that we're adding. And then there's a small little strip of work off this meeting platform right now. That's probably about 600 square feet.
So we're adding about 1,000? It has an indication for the amount of linear feet of stacks.
Correct.
Is that a change from what is existing?
It is less than what you have now, if I remember right.
The media
We're
center
still-
specialist is on a lot of input into how the design works in terms of linear feet for books.
So it's a decrease
Of actual books, I believe it's
of
just,
linear
yeah.
feet.
With the idea that a lot of it's going to go towards.
And
you know,
it's a
electronic.
media center,
Yes.
so it's different than our library for 40 years ago, much as I like books.
There'll still be
I
books.
was-
Yeah.
All the media centers we visited all had books.
I know. I was just curious.
There are plenty of 1970s books that people on the shelf
That's good. The media classroom
Yes.
on the left, is that a soft wall on the, is that a soft wall that will be retractable or?
Correct. The idea is that it be glass, we have slide panels. And
So
you
that-
can open it up.
So that if someone wanted to take a larger meeting or a larger,
Correct.
that larger space
That, the idea is that you could actually use that entire space.
for presentation. It's just a comment, I know a lot of opinions went into the design and I'm looking at it for the first time. I'm just a little bit concerned about the active study area being at the entrance. I'm thinking out loud about whether that's going to be monitored because it seems like it will operate a little bit on its own. So I'm not suggesting that I expect our high school students to do things there that they're not supposed to be doing in the library, but I'm wondering if there's any concern about that space being isolated. And whether that space being elevated can be seen from people who are sitting, for example, at the circulation desk. In other words, if I'm sitting at the circulation desk,
I believe you wouldn't be able to see that yet.
can you see everyone?
Right, we were looking to do some sort of a translucent rail, instead of kind of a hard piece. You've got something that you can see through.
Okay.
Knowing your media staff, I do, I think there's going to be a lot of sitting behind a circuit desk anyway.
No.
We did move the circuit desk in the middle to try and maximize that sight line.
They actually had proposed an option, moving it closer for that very reason, and they felt that actually being back in this area
Was better.
was better. yeah.
So those walls are going to be translucent or maybe even with railing?
It's actually just a railing height, it's still going to be open to the media center.
The difference in floor space is about 32 inches.
Right.
And then the railing has to be 42 inches by code, but from the railing down to the floor, we were looking at a glass or a translucent panel so that you do not have any obstructed view there. That from that circulation desk or somebody walking around to monitor the space, they can see activities.
Do we know, will it have I assume it's going to have a larger capacity for people since it's expanding the space and losing the stacks to some extent. Do we have an idea of how many more
Actual person
occupants?
capacity, that we haven't actually counted up.
Okay.
24, 24, and 25, you're talking, yeah, if you just, you're talking at least 80,000.
You should have the ability to run 3 separate class sections plus individual study in the area at one time, if you choose. That's the order of magnitude.
It's actually a little more than.
As we move into the next next time we start actually formalize the educational specifications, I'll be sharing with the board, and that number will be.
Okay. And then, I guess this is for the board or Karen or Paul, I'm not sure who, but I assume that, or I'm wondering if the Safety and Security Committee will be asked for input since we're modifying that structure to see if there's anything that we need to, that we might want to think about adding to that space.
I didn't hear the question, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Carmela was asking whether or not the Safety and Security Committee would want to take a look at the plans and perhaps provide any input since safety and security.
My only, it sounds like there's going to be a lot of glass, correct? Yep. My only concern would be, and a thought would be, the protective film that would go over, so this keeps it shatterproof, so that this way, if someone was trying to get in, it would at least slow them down.
Within the perimeter of the library itself.
Correct.
Yeah, there are a number of glass areas that are kind of separating off sections of the media center. We'll talk about those as well.
Yeah.
It's the interior.
Right, but still, you want to be able to slow down with that. God forbid if there was a perpetrator going to the school, you want to be able to slow them down as much as possible.
I actually have one other question. Is there access to the exterior courtyard from inside the library space itself? Thank you.
Just trying to get perspective, where's the rotunda with regard to this now?
Following the page, so it's actually right there.
Okay, so the bottom of the page is where that big glass windows now, where you can see it.
Right now, these are those series of glass windows that you can see in this.
Okay.
The pioneers are right here.
The areas that say lounge, study, and flex area, are those movable things or not?
Oh, totally movable.
Totally movable, okay. Because I know some groups use the media center right now for performances, presentations, and things like that. That's still doable?
Yes. Flexibility is a big thing here.
Thank you for your presentation. When can you start?
What's the last day?
Just kidding. I really like the entrance from the rotunda. I know that when we were interviewing firms, one of the considerations was by you guys to put the entrance in the rotunda. I think that makes a huge difference over any other plan. I did want to ask you about, and I love the idea of bringing some light in, so I think the idea of the windows in the back and the expansion area is a great idea. Is there much of an impact on the courtyard itself? Will that be an issue at all?
An impact?
The courtyard, is this much space being taken away from the courtyard?
Well, some space, but the courtyard isn't widely used right now. I think part of what we might want to do ultimately is make the courtyard a little bit more attractive in the nicer weather as well. But I think creating more interior space is probably a big advantage.
Great. That's a great idea. Can you speak to the equipment in the classroom? Is there going to be any special smart board?
Yeah, the idea is that there be the specific piece of technology is still up, but yeah, the idea would be either smart boards or televisions, some kind of projection equipment, obviously computers. The idea is that would be kind of a technology intense kind of presentation.
We've had your IT director as part of our committee. We expect that we get further into the process that we'll want to talk to him to make sure we're getting we can specify or have that version or work out the exact technology is going to match what we can do in our infrastructure upgrades.
Andrew Wallace has sat in on committee meetings as well.
Sounds great. And the last thing, I just want to understand the timeline. If you start when you were talking about, you're looking at sometime in October.
We're looking at getting this open at some point, probably in October. We're not looking what we're doing here, which also includes things like changing the HVAC system out. All of the loading and unloading, it's not an easy room to move. We're looking at eating into the school year, so probably need September, maybe most of October. Obviously, we don't have time to plan it, so we have a full set schedule. We're going to start really close out the first month, about 2 months of the school. Which again, that really was done with a lot of input from
For current projects that are going before the DOE for approval, do you have any sense as to how long the turnaround time has been?
Thank you. Very quick.
Yes, you said there's not much work on the statewide trucks.
For a change, I'm not too worried about that.
Please don't say that.
He said he knows people. David, and then David, and then Mike, and then Mike.
Okay, continuing on that disruption, and not only until October, what about disruptions to the rest of the school? Will there be any problems with the HVAC, with passages, getting around that area for the students?
The intent is to do the heavy lifting work over the summer. The demo, bringing up a lot of new equipment. We can write the specs of the HVAC system comes in the summer. As we're continuing in the fall, there will be a little disruption. The contractor won't be getting obviously in an interior space. We can't doing more clear administration to set up a protocol where they want us to contract the problem. There's no disruption. Fortunately, you are in an enclosed area, so once the contractor gets in, they shouldn't be disrupted as a loss outside. And again, the work that should happen in the fall should be quiet work, demolition, jackhammering, stuff like that should be done.
The mechanical system actually is almost directly above the meeting centers in this area, so again, it's near proximity, so disruption is going to be minimal.
And currently, it's independent from the rest of the school, so if we shut down the existing mechanical system to begin the demolition, that will not affect any previous scenarios.
Okay, good. And I know you've been in contact and in talks with the other IT people, and this is a media center, it's really what it is, it's technology. What could you maybe describe a little bit about what you're going to do to maintain its ability to be upgraded in the future? Because obviously technology is changing so quickly. I don't know where it's going. I would imagine more wireless, but we still need wires, some things like that. So, and with the open floor space, how does that present a challenge to actually get new infrastructure into the middle of that area?
Definitely more wireless, and really it's all about setting up the infrastructure. Conduit cables raised so that you can pull cables out, put new cables in, have access down walls, into the floor or something, so you can have a path to run those things in the future if you need to. So it's really all about setting up the pathways of the infrastructure.
The details are not worked out. That's not the next phase. That's absolutely. We want to make sure we're not doing something now.
And last question. In your discussion so far with the different groups, have you gotten a sense of how much area you need as quiet, how much you need as active, and could you share that?
Yeah, I don't know if we talked. We didn't get a square foot areas per se, but there was a lot of discussion, even down to last week in terms of, this less area go here, this last area go here. It really was a mix. You have a limited area. It's not overly large space for your size, but it's sufficient. And we're really trying to cater to a little bit of everything. We want to try and mix all the different types of areas. We don't, an individual study, not Carol, but newer equivalent of that, kind of high top ceiling, all the way down to the more active pieces. Nobody's really kind of specified how many we want to send here or here. But it goes to the plan, where we plan is, it seems to fit with students, even if everyone sees the balances, everybody's needs.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mike?
Sure. Thank you for the presentation. As a former alumnus of the high school, you'd be surprised how even an architectural drawing can bring back such happy memories. Out of my own curiosity, how many students were involved in the initial camp?
I think the initial one, there was probably 12, I think.
Very good. And I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, there will be desktop computer space available to students outside of that classroom area.
Outside the classroom?
Outside of that classroom area, in the main space.
In the main space, we've set up basically 4 just hardwired computers at the circulation desk.
Okay.
So, well, actually, it's 3 now, the way we modified it. Basically, just some hard computer bar here, hardwired, just actual fixed stations. The idea is that you have a little bar area here and a countertop here, where you could set up some laptops and stations as well. But the idea was really, I think, we're kind of moving towards everybody having more of their own kind of equipment that they can bring in and plug into the system.
We've literally had hours of discussion on technology and printing, and those are the details. I can't tell you we got 2 or 3 or 4 printers. We don't know yet. That's the next phase. But we know that we've got to address the printing, the flexibles, and everything.
And especially amongst the students, that was a popular idea to sort of bring in your own laptop as opposed to having a unit available at the school.
Well, they want a little bit of both, honestly. Be able to just come in, pull up something, and print it real quick.
That is the happy memory that's coming to my mind when you're in that dire rush, realizing the night before you should have printed something at home and you have to run into the library. The concern was finding an open computer and making sure that space was available to the students who needed it. In that
Well,
time.
there will be banks of Chromebooks, so it won't necessarily just be there's a desktop computer available. It'll be that you can pull a Chromebook off from the charging unit, open it up, and it's got wireless, and get yourself to where you need to be.
And those are wirelessly connected to printers or hardwired? They have
They're not hot, they're all wireless.
Very good.
The other thing that's interesting about this, which I stopped to think about at one point, was that if you talk to the seniors or the juniors in the high school right now, they have a perspective about what a media center should look like based on their own history in the media center. So they have had an experience there for 3 or 4 years, and there are some things that have been missing for them. So they want to include that. But I'm reasonably sure that if you had a conversation with 5th graders or 6th graders, they'd have a different perspective about what that would look like. There really is, between those years, right now, in terms of 6th grade and 12th grade, it's 1,000 miles of difference, because they've just adapted to technology that much sooner, probably already use it differently, and would have different perspectives about what that space should look like. So again, I think flexibility is the key here.
Mike?
Yeah, I have just a couple of questions and then some comments or thoughts to share. Now, when I went to the meeting, maybe it's a week or 2 weeks ago, I lost track. Has the door, now it's moved over more, so it's not going to knock out the center. Okay.
Not going to knock out the final.
All right, so now on the north wall, where you're knocking out the wall, what was a classroom, sometimes office, right there, that's not a load-bearing wall, right? Okay.
It's all steel frame.
Right, so the 6 black dots that you have, those are load-bearing?
That's where the columns are now. Yes.
Okay, and so you can put columns outside?
Those
Okay.
we can do whatever we want.
Okay, and then what used to be called the library classroom, that was there was a sort of a wall there. That wall is going to be completely gone all the way to the 300 corner, to the back of what used to be the English department here, right there. All that's gutted.
Yes.
Okay. I think there's some really wonderful ideas here. Okay, having probably spent more time in that library than anybody in the room, I think some of the ideas were really great. When I first went to the meeting, I was not part of the planning, the foresight and the administration to get this thing underway. And when I went to the presentation, whatever number of weeks ago, I was really, really impressed. Okay, since the building of the school, that courtyard has always been a problem and an opportunity. Okay, for every administration that's ever been there, we never knew what to do with that thing. Okay, and I think utilizing some of it now with that room is a great idea, because it was a big waste. All right, it was more problems than anything. So I think that's a really good thing you the way you're rearranging the doors, I think is innovative. Now, as far as monitoring the library, I understand what my colleague said about that, the entryway being questionable, but what you're essentially doing is you're creating almost a new facility here. You're showing some vision that people haven't had before. And it's going to find its own level. There are going to be issues on how to monitor and so on. That's going to be a challenge that people will meet. There is, I think you might have to keep in mind, because of the setup of the library, I don't know the staffing situation. But I think you have to look forward down the line also that how much staffing is going to be required for a space that is now a little somewhat larger and different with the way the library classroom is. So I think it's something you have to be prepared for. There is going to be some factor there. I'm not sure that we have what we have there now. Is it one full-time I know you're not supposed to use the word librarian, media specialist. Okay. But I have a feeling that with something like this, we're going to have to look at that somewhere down the line. It's a cost that we made. It might be half a course, and I don't know what it is. I don't know administrator, but I think it's there. We should be aware of it. But having said all this, okay, I really have to take my hat off to everybody that was on this board before me, and to the administration, and to the staff, who have the foresight to look at this. You were correct when you said there was really never a real total renovation. There were cosmetics, there was moving this and that. This has never been done in 40-some years that the building has been sitting here, even with all the additions that have been done. Okay, and it's long overdue. And I just have to say, I was awestruck by the creativity that's gone into it. Not that it's written in stone, so to speak, at this point, but the board having the foresight. It's easy to drive down Changebridge Road and see a football field. People see that, or a baseball field. People cannot see in the building. And this is the guts of it right here. And I really have to, I can't say it enough. I congratulate you, and I think to have the foresight to deal with this is one of the greatest things that I could think of this board doing. I'm inspired by your efforts. Okay,
So Mike, does that mean you like the new media?
What's that?
Does that mean you like the new media center?
No, I think this is great.
Actually, if truth be told, the way this started was, and please, board colleagues, if I'm misspeaking, let me know. The high school PTC had about $10,000 that they wanted to donate to the media center at the high school because they recognized that the media center needed improvement. And from that little seed, Doug Sanford and the parents.
A mighty oak does grow.
Yes, yes.
Mighty oak.
And I have to credit Jackie Ritchell because this was her baby, if you will. She really pushed us to think about how we could fund this project beyond the $10,000. And that's really what got the ball rolling. So we must give credit to Jackie, to the parents, Andrea Orris, and I don't remember who was the co-president at the time, and to the high school administration for bringing this forward to us, and to Jim for figuring out a way to fund it.
It takes a lot of vision, a lot of dedication, and of course, a lot of money to make a project like this. And I think it's really one of the best things that could happen. And I congratulate all of you that even if there's changes, there's going to be some changes, there's going to be some colors. I think it's a terrific thing that has been done. I'm proud just to be sitting here at the table. I mean that most sincerely.
Thank you. Comments, questions? Okay. Is there anyone in the public who would like to comment on the media center renovation?
Hi, Peter Porter, MTA president and a high school social studies teacher. I agree with Mike. It looks like a phenomenal structure. Excited to have an opportunity to use the facility in a new and kind of different way. I have one practical question. The bathrooms that are nearby there have flooded on many occasions, and when they do, they go right into the library. Has any consideration been given to looking at those bathrooms and trying to figure out a solution to that problem? Because I know several years ago, we had a clog and it went right into the library and had to take it apart. So again, I don't know if that's been thought about or discussed, but again, I think it's a wonderful structure, but I would hate to see it get done and then have a problem and you'd be starting with a mess.
If I might, that bathroom there, the 300 bathroom, has had problems since forever, okay, every several years. So I hate to say it, we've agreed, there was one other thing many years ago that we agreed on. So this is the second thing that we've ever agreed on. So I think that really has to be looked at. This is from a person on ground level.
That's the only concern is you would build this great new structure and if that wasn't looked at.
Well, certainly, thank you for bringing that to the attention of the architects, and I'm sure Paul will let.
First reader on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well,
I'll just point out one more thing I would suggest point out to you is that the ceilings are going to change, so that area by the rotundas where we're raising the floor, we're actually going to be raising the ceilings quite a bit too. So we have the ability to do that. So we're actually going to have some nice change in level of some drama happening.
oh, don't worry, there'll be enough drama. That's okay.
You know, that's great to hear. Originally, I heard that there was no way to raise.
On the one end, yeah.
No, it's
Right,
fantastic.
it's actually not right there.
Basically from this point down, we do have the ability to raise that.
It just gives a sense of more space.
Isn't, I just asked a question, the furniture on that raised section, is that going to be fixed or movable furniture? Then you actually have a stage. I mean, you have a stage with those movable, right, all the furniture there. You literally have a second area for presentations, forensics, or whatever else you, okay.
Are you working for the architect?
Well,
No, that's a good point.
listen, we didn't spend Friday night down at Rails for nothing.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
You've done a great job. Thank you.
Okay, the next part of this evening is is a budget presentation, and were handed out to the community as you walked in. Here are some to the board. So this evening's presentation is entitled This evening's presentation is entitled Preliminary Budget Second Presentation, which, as opposed to the initial presentation from last week. Mr. Tevis is not able to be with us this evening, and so we are not moving into areas of either capital improvement or equipment just yet. And I have done a bit of refinement on some of the presentation from last week, and I will particularly point out those areas as we get to them. So, we begin with our mission statement that the Montville Township community values education at the highest level, missions to guarantee exceptional education for our students, and maximizing individual potential and fostering a lifelong commitment to learning to a strong partnership of educators, families, and communities. And our vision speaks to opportunity and high achievement, teacher effectiveness and student engagement at the center of our work, passionate learners in inclusive and collaborative settings, and maintaining excellence while becoming a district of distinction.
There's extras.
These are our student learning goals. And not long ago, I did a brief presentation on these goals in terms of what they were addressing, so I won't do that again this evening. But as you can see, the learning goals approach a wide variety of topics, everything from our original science research program to researching world language to special education and the effect of school culture on students. So our preliminary budget proposals for next year included the elementary schools, maintaining class size, maintaining programs and some new initiatives. The middle school, again, maintaining class size, maintaining our teaming, enhancements to programs. The high school, class sizes, maintain core and elective programs, continue and enhancements at the athletics and club levels, maintaining all of our present programs, athletics and clubs, and providing for new equipment. The elementary level, and you did see this slide last week, new instructional materials to enhance literacy and mathematics programs, program renewals in all core content areas, and summer support for schools by supporting school nurses for 2 days at each of our schools to get ready for the new school year. At the elementary school level, we have some potential reductions altogether of 5 elementary teachers, 1 at Cedar Hill, 1 at Valley View, 2 at William Mason, 1 at Woodmont, and as it says on the slide, the decrease in staffing is based on enrollment. Class size limits as defined by board policy are not exceeded, and certainly there can be more conversation about those potential reductions. And also Chromebooks and carts to support instruction in each elementary school. It's interesting to note that as the park testing is approaching and we're gathering the Chromebook computers, as is the protocol, putting them all into one school, or many of them into one school for the sake of the park testing, we're really getting feedback that our teachers are missing those Chromebooks, which of course signals to me that they're being used widely in our classrooms by our teachers at the elementary level, at the middle school level, and high school level, because we're now taking them away. So additional Chromebooks in our buildings is a good thing as we move forward. At Lazar Middle School, a stipend for a bursar position is being recommended, and also additional Chromebooks and carts. At the high school, point for addition of an ESL teacher based on student needs. Benefits as a 0.6 position becomes a 1.0 position. The 1.0 science teacher at the high school, this is because of the many children who took for the first time, had the ability to take biology in grade 9, and now they're moving to grade 10, where chemistry would be the logical next step. We are looking carefully at this position. Mr. Sanford at the high school and Sandy Schwartz, our supervisor of math and science, are continuing to look at this position as to how necessary it is. We may find ourselves unable to move forward without the additional position. And more information will be coming your way in the future as we go through the process. Recommending some stipends for our science research teachers because they do attend numerous evening activities on behalf of that program. And this last one is new, and this is a stipend to pay an individual for the media center, keeping the media center open before the school day starts and keeping it open after the school day ends. This was actually, I don't know if it actually was in the budget or we pulled it out at the last minute. But when we initially thought that perhaps this project would have begun a year ago, the idea of keeping the media center open before and after school, I thought was very important. When we realized that the media center wasn't changing this year, we took it out of the budget. But now I'm putting it back in because I do think it's very important that our students have access to it before and after school, and I think our students will want to have access to it before and after the school day. We have a new course offering at the high school, AP Human Geography, and expansion of the research-based humanities program. And again, that comes about as we bring both new Chromebooks to the high school, and as teachers expressed an interest in moving in that direction. Here are special services, and we discussed this last time, the addition of 4 teachers at the high school, and potentially a half-time teacher at Cedar Hill. The 4 teachers come about as we, this year at the present time, we have several classrooms where we exceed the actual prescribed limits for special education children. We have waivers. We would prefer not to try to attempt to get waivers again, and we have many classes at the maximum allowed number of students. Stipends at Lazar Middle School, and we talked again last time about the fact that presently our special education teachers at Lazar Middle School are teaching 6 classes, and the contract calls for them to be teaching 5. And we would probably prefer that the existing staff continues to teach 6 with a stipend attached to that. And in terms of the cost of that, we're working this through with the Montville Township Education Association to try to come to an understanding that will work for us from a financial perspective, but also certainly allow us to provide the teachers with additional stipends because of working that 6th period. And then also stipends at the high school for science class and special education math lab. Special ed math lab will be a new course that will be available to special education children who need additional support in the area of mathematics. This is a new slide. We did, at Mr. Grau's recommendation, begin to look more carefully at whether or not we could move the program forward next year as opposed to waiting a year. And so this talks about the primary special education program that is presently in our district. It's housed at William Mason. The present service, or the projected service, if we continue to let Bergen Special Services administer the program, we estimate at $868,344 for next year. That's a similar cost to where it is now. But if we in fact operate our own program, hire our own staff, administer the program for our own administrators, hire our own specialists that support the program, train our paraprofessionals and apply behavioral analysis, and do all of those things, we estimate the program to be $660,000 and a savings of just around $200,000. And so that looks as if we have more research to do, but it looks as if we can see an appreciable saving by taking over the program ourselves. The technology proposals have changed a little bit. Last time I presented that we had 60 Chromebooks for each elementary school. I've moved that to 90 because what I've removed from the elementary proposals are tablets that were being asked for our kindergarten students. There was a conversation with our elementary principals about whether the tablets, which are more costly, were that much more effective for our youngest learners, or Chromebooks could be used. We came to the conclusion that Chromebooks would be the better buy, so to speak. and we've moved from 60 to 90 for each elementary school, which was about the same cost as the number of tablets. The difference of 30 for each elementary was about the same cost as the number of tablets we were recommending for all 5 schools in those kindergarten rooms. The smartboard at Hilldale in the art room, the smartboard speakers at Valley View in Hilldale, and the laser printers at the high school all remain what it was last time. Our athletic proposals haven't changed. Trading, if you will, the weight room coach stipend and 1 assistant wrestling coach stipend for a strength and conditioning coach. There are fewer students in the wrestling program, and this brings about the possibility of 1 less assistant. And again, we're recognizing the need for the strength and conditioning coach. Bleachers to help support the new turf field. Football helmets, moving all of our helmets to a 5-star rating, the safest helmets that can be purchased. And soccer goals, 2 new sets, 1 for the new turf field, and the replacement of 1 set of damaged poles. Professional development, the areas are the same as we've seen before in terms of science research, AP course training, teacher evaluation model, school improvement panels, etc. Curriculum development, again, dollars to support the development of curriculum as it's needed, and Andrea has estimated what that cost could be. And there is one slide about capital facility budget initiatives, 3 large projects, Valley View boilers to replace 2 obsolete models, Bazaar again, boilers for 2 models, and Bazaar roof to patch some leaking sections. And then, of course, the project we've just been talking about with our architects, the high school media center renovation, the current capital reserve deposit, the money that's already been put aside for the project is $1 million. We do know that we would be asking the Board of Education in this next year's budget to consider additional money to go toward that project in order to bring about the design that you've seen tonight. Through different conversation, we understand that portions of the media center project, not the actual construction costs, but other portions having to do with technology, potentially furniture, and other areas can be bought over a 3-year plan, as we often purchase a lot of our technology already. So that would help us reduce the initial first year or initial costs. So the total cost of the project could again be paid off over the following 2 years, or again, things like technology and furniture, and that would help us not have to take quite as much out of our present capital reserve fund for the remaining money for the project. And considerations for 2016-17, so that's an entire year away. Go into potential enhancements to the world language programs. The task force studies that program. American Sign Language, which I believe would be a very, very positive addition to our world language program, particularly for students who might perhaps have a great deal of difficulty with the more traditional world languages. Tubas for the marching band, varsity and JV volleyball teams, mat baskets for cheerleading and wrestling. Some clubs at the high school have been brought to our attention by both students and administration. Right now I haven't put them into the budget proposal. They're on this page instead. Additional administrative support is something, again, to think about based on teacher evaluation systems and potentially whether or not we receive a waiver for some of that. And the Living Lessons program, Lazar, would be back. And as I further refine and put actual dollars to the proposals, some of the items that are on here, I'm just looking at, for example, new clubs at the high school. If we know that they'd be very popular, small amount of money perhaps they could become part of the process for this year. So just because they're on this page marching band tubas is another example. That might be able to move into the part where we can invite them sooner rather than later. And then we have the future dates for potential budget discussions. February 24th is listed there if needed. That's a week from tonight. And we'll make that decision before the end of the week. And then, of course, the other dates are there as well. That brings us to comments and questions, I guess first from the Board of Education and then from the community.
With regard to the science, I'm just curious, when we eliminated earth science as a requirement, to what extent did that increase the enrollment in biology?
Looking at my colleagues to see if they have a firm number about that.
And I know it's kind of an unfair question to bring to somebody, but I mean, the reason I said it was because you said it was possibly under consideration that you might not need the additional teacher. I mean, all along, when we got rid of the earth science requirement, I personally never thought it was going to that much increase the enrollment in biology. Because I think in the past we had really two groups of students. These kids took earth science, and these students wanted to take biology, so they took earth science and biology. Now you got earth science and biology. I don't think there's probably a lot of students who take both now. That could be wrong as well.
We do have students who take both, but we also have students who have moved right to biology instead, which created that bubble while we needed the additional teacher. So I don't have that exact number. So perhaps Andrew, you can make a note about that, and we can try to get that to the board.
And I understand, I mean, I guess I really shouldn't have expected you to know that number off the top of your head in this presentation.
If I knew that, you'd be pretty surprised, wouldn't you?
Just for future reference, just they'll pass that information to us. Thanks.
Absolutely.
There was a new item, not new item, but new slide, I guess. They still use that word. Okay. On page 7 in ours, it's a special service. Inserted the new visual there. Those students previously were sent out of district to another location now. In Bergen County?
No, these students that we're talking about are actually at William Mason School.
Right.
They're our own students. They're housed in a classroom at William Mason. Bergen Special Services is an organization. Students can, I believe, go to their campus, but that's not the arrangement we have with them. They have their staff in our building. So their head teacher, their paraprofessionals, their behaviorists. They have a principal who goes around to schools like ours. This person actually supervises maybe 20 different programs. So that's the administrator of the program. They come to our school, check in on their teachers. So it's their program housed in our school. So it's a little less expensive for us. The transportation's a little bit less. We don't have to bus our children out of district. And they do pay us, I believe, this offsets some rental because they're using our classroom. So there's some saving with, I think it's approximately $70,000. It's not huge. There's some saving by having it in our district, and of course we want our children to be in our district if at all possible. So the difference now would be that we're going to run the program. We're not going to be using Bergen Special Service employees. We're going to be hiring our own head teacher, our own paraprofessionals, our own therapists, behaviorists, speech and language pathologists. We'll have all the same ingredients that are necessary to run a great program, but we won't be paying them for administrative fees, their overhead, for all of those things.
Okay, that answered quite well what I was wondering. So even regardless of that, students are not traveling, I still think this is a great idea to bring this under our umbrella in our school, and not to mention the savings that potential savings that you're very good idea, another good idea.
Those 5 teachers for reduction in force, do you know if that's going to be offset by retirements, or we don't know that yet?
We don't know that yet, but it doesn't look likely. We may find ourselves offsetting some of that through childcare leaves. When teachers are on leave and we are potentially not hiring back long-term substitutes, but we don't have all the information about that yet. It's kind of early in the year to know that exactly.
Yeah, regarding the special services again, would that cost savings be seen in year 1 and subsequent years, or is there going to be some ramp-up costs involved getting that program started?
We would see, I believe, that savings in year 1. Now, of course, you see it every year, but you don't, from a budgetary perspective, see it every year. You know, in other words, once you lower that line item, right, the 800 and something thousand to 600 something thousand, you get that initial $200,000 saving, but then the following year you're budgeting for that program.
Right.
So.
And how many students would be involved in that program as it stands right now?
I want to say it's somewhere around 6 or 7. Am I close? I think so, yeah.
And would there be any discussion about expanding it? I assume we have a lot more students that might be interested in this program, so would there be a way to expand that further to encompass more students?
Well, I think that probably, it probably already encompasses all the Montville Township students who are eligible, so to speak, and that it's the right fit for this program. Potentially, we could look to bring in tuition students if we have room in the program. That's not unheard of or out of the question. But programs like this are so individualized and so specific that there really is a pretty small window. But if our enrollment, for example, were to go down the following year, we could continue to program and bring in tuition students. That would, in fact, allow us to save additional money.
Somehow I don't see us having a problem with student enrollment going down. But,
well, it depends, because the students involved in this program have very specific needs, so it could happen.
And regarding the media center stipend, I think that's a great idea. Do you know offhand how many students might be interested in using those facilities? Because I think right now a lot of them end up going across the parking lot basically to the library to utilize those facilities, and they have a lot of computers there and a lot of studying areas and all. Is this something that we need to do, or can we perhaps rely on our colleagues across the way?
Yeah, we're very grateful that the Montville Township Public Library accommodates our students, of course, but I think that this is going to be a very attractive opportunity for our students. They're going to want to come to the high school and be at the high school and take advantage of this, I think. So, again, I think if we can accommodate them before and after school would be a very, very good thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, Paul, I just wanted to ask a couple questions about the new slide also. First of all, the new slide being that special services proposal for William Mason. Are the people from Bergen Special Services trained in any way that our people might not be able to be trained? In other words, will there be similar quality?
Well, we would literally, with the exception potentially, we have a behaviorist in our district that is our full-time employee. That person services us across the district K through 12 in areas where they consult with teachers and create programs for students, individual behavior programs and things like that. The program from Bergen has a full-time behaviorist, just for those 6 or 7 children. So it's again a very specialized program to meet the needs of the children in that program. So when we're looking to create a staff for that program, whether or not we have people working in our district already, with the exception of behaviorists, who we know certainly can perform that role, and then we potentially would hire behaviorists for the rest of the district again, we would be looking to hire new people for that program. Now, we may have some special education teachers already in our district who are interested in that lead teacher position and have the qualities and training that would enable them to perform that role, but I'm not aware of that. They may, again, have that background before they came to us. They may be performing a whole different special education role right now, but have that training and background and experience. But again, it's a very narrow niche, so to speak, in terms of working in that type of program. With occupational therapy and physical therapy, certainly the people in our district, if they may be able to lend some of their time, so to speak, to that program, depending on their schedule and load. So those are things we have to look at. But the pricing you see is trying to take into account all of those nuances as we look forward.
And these individuals that work within our program would be employees of the district. So when we see an estimate like that, this includes any kind of benefits in any way.
Yeah. And, again, considering that lead teacher is incredibly important, that is the glue, so to speak, that holds the program together. We're not budgeting in that figure. It's not bachelor step 1. We're looking at like master step 10. We're looking at a very, very well-regarded, highly trained individual with experience to come in and to work through a program like this. We've also included in that figure training for the paraprofessionals over the summer to work in our extended year program and to learn what they need to learn to open that program. So we're taking all those things into account.
And finally, I wanted to call your attention back, and you remember, and all the board members who are here certainly remember, maybe members of the public, 2010 when our state aid fully became unfunded. We lost all of our state aid. And back at that time, those of us that were here on the Board of Education remember that one of our discussions with you was the thought of bringing programs, bringing some of the students back in, becoming entrepreneurial, as David was intimating, with respect to some new ideas, new programs, anything at all, any kind of cost savings. I'm glad that Mr. Grau re-entered this as a thought process, and I hope that this process, thank you, Charlotte, and I hope that this process continues forward in terms of other thinking that can maintain quality but also save the costs. So thank you for having the vision to do this, and thanks for the idea, Charlotte.
In Jen Desai's first year, she really brought back several programs which saved the district a great deal of money. Now, of course, again, that becomes a one-time savings because at that point now you're supporting that number. But when she did that, that was very significant. This is now another opportunity to do that.
And I'm sure that she continues to look within the confines of her program to see if there are any other areas where...
She does, and we discuss this from time to time. There are some programs that are out of district that right now we feel would not be advantageous for us to try to bring into district for a variety of reasons.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, just thank you. Well, you just mentioned, I know you had mentioned in one of the other meetings that we have quite a few preschool special needs counselors. I don't know the levels, that can be what, ages 3 to 5 or something like that. Has there been any possibility of looking, since we now have rooms for the elementary schools because of the reduction, is there anything we can look at bringing some of those 3, 4, 5-year-olds back in? First of all, the little ones on the bus is so long. I've been in the business a long time. There's stuff on it, even though it might be only 2 or 3 youngsters. If there's any way you could look at it and some of those preschool youngsters into one of our elementary programs.
Well-
See if there's a possibility, because even if there's only 3 or 4 or 5 youngsters, there probably would be a cost saving, but the amount of time that they're on the buses for those little guys, that's tough on them. So I don't need an answer, just throwing it out there for you to possibly investigate while you're doing the other thing. The other idea is that when we're talking at the library, extending the hours, I know some high schools, I've been in enough of them, have something known as flexible scheduling. And you guys know that as you and Casey, I'm sure. And maybe that's something that might be able to, for us to take advantage of, where some people come in earlier, go home earlier, come in later, stay later. Just ideas. I'm not recommending it, I'm just throwing out more things for you to look at on your late opening days. Okay? Now, we don't know if we're meeting next week or not. It would be if we are meeting just on budget.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for continually reviewing these things.
Any other questions from board members? Are there any questions from the public on the budget? Okay, before we move on, I just wanted to make a couple of comments. About where we were in the superintendent search, just a small update. We met with a representative from HYA, the search firm that the board hired. His name is Dwight Finning. We met with him on February 10th. We had a very productive meeting. We set timelines, talked about an ad for the newspaper. The ad was in this Sunday. A letter went out, or will go out, to the parents of the district regarding a survey. It's an HYA, the search firm's survey on how we would prioritize the qualities that we're looking for, we meaning members of the community, in a superintendent. This firm working with central office is also setting up dates so the search firm can work with various stakeholders in the community, parents, community members, as well as staff, administrators, teachers, elementary teachers, high school teachers, middle school teachers will all be broken up into different groups at different times and different days so that everyone has an opportunity to speak to the search firm regarding the search for a new superintendent. So my understanding is the survey is live now. It's on the website. So feel free, take a look, participate. There'll be that opportunity to participate as well as meetings set up. And I know Sue's working on a press release, I understand, as we had discussed with our meeting with HYA. A press release will go out announcing these opportunities as well, so it'll reach the entire community. So I just wanted to give you that update. Are there any committee reports? Finance and facilities?
Well, we met, but the minutes aren't done yet, so we'll report the next day.
No problem. Any other committees? Any delegate liaisons? PTC liaison? Anything anyone wants to share about negotiations? Okay, I'll open it up to the public for items on the agenda. Okay, seeing no public participation, close public participation, and a motion for items I through O, including the addendum, with a note on the addendum that the facility use request will be waiving the fees on that request.
Second.
So Charlie and John. Any discussion on the minutes? Any discussion on J? On K?
Yeah, on K, Karen, I just want to say, item K, I'm pleased to accept any upgrade by Verizon at no cost to the district.
L? M?
Just a comment on M1. think it's great that we're using webinars, teaching, you know, that M1, Andrew Sayer is using that for a webinar for her department, right, for all that you had indicated.
Yes, for the OTs and the PTs.
I think webinar is great.
Anything on, oh, that's it, oh, the addendum, anything on the addendum? Okay, wow, roll call.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Dr. Mulder?
Yes.
Mr. Morella?
Yes.
Melby?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Aye.
Mr. Palmer?
I do.
Dr. King?
Yes.
Dr. Cordino?
Yes, except abstain on check 78326. Any other business? Additional reports? General board comments? I'll open it to the public for anything not on the agenda.
Just comment that there is no meeting Thursday night at the high school, from the school boards on the safety.
Oh, yes, there is. Very good. How did I miss that?
I don't know if I
It's my
remember.
daughter's, it's my daughter's birthday. Yeah, thank you. New Jersey School Boards is conducting a safety and security meeting. They're doing it around the state, and this Thursday, it's being conducted at our high school cafeteria. I'm not sure of the time, but it should be on their website. Anyone from the public? Okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.